When I first bought this game back in January, I didn't think I'd be reviewing it anytime in the future. Not because I was creating content on a certain other game, but because honestly, I don't like visual novels. Actually, scratch that. I don't like most visual novels. On Steam specifically. I understand the medium and it's always fun to read a good book, and I certainly respect the work that goes behind such a piece, but hell, not only is there one Steins game for every 5,000 dating sim quote-unquote games literally in the Steam marketplace, but also, when I sit down to play, what I'm looking for is action and a break from reality. Another game which makes me have an existential crisis because of how close we are to collapsing as a society. VA-11 Hall A Cyberpunk bartender action, or as a normal person with more than one neuron would call it, Valhalla is exactly that, a cyberpunk bartending game, and to find out why that is, keep watching the video. But first, let's back up a bit. 2014, the year of all significant things that happened in 2014, such as, you know, the World Cup, Scotland staying in the UK, the spread of Ebola through Africa, Russia annexing Crimea, oil prices crashing, Malaysia Flight 370 disappearing and never being seen again. Really, what was it with this year? Amidst all this chaos and negativity, one Sukeban Games, a Venezuelan game developer. Wow, I'm not pulling your leg here, hell, look at this image of the game's lead designer Christopher Ortiz showing the game off at the Simon Bolivar University in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. This entire JPEG radiates so much South American energy and I'm all here for it. If I ever become a teacher, I'm going to be like this man. In 2014, Mr. Sukeban decided to partake in the Cyberpunk Game Jam of 2014, and much like the Australian heroes of Team Cherry also did in that same year, they liked the concept they used in their game jam so much that they decided to turn it into a fully fleshed game. Valhalla, however, unlike Hollow Knight, started and finished development in the same engine of Game Maker, the same one used by Toby Fox in Undertale, and one which the developers felt could really amp the effects used as stated by themselves. FFW 2 years to June 2016, and Valhalla is made available on PC, PS4, Nintendo Switch, and the other modern console of the generation, the PS Vita. And like most physical Vita releases, it's f***ing expensive, what the hell? Valhalla takes place in Glitch City, a very creative name for a city. Glitch City, fucking really? The last time a city name was this interesting was back when the city of Townsville was on fire! As explained in the game's text box intro, Glitch City is the embodiment of all that can go wrong for humanity in the next 30 years. It's a place full of corruption, capitalism, inequality, criminality, nanomachines inside people, and years with X's in them. It's like the art design of GTA Vice City fused together with Brazil. So just like the city's name, the city's background is all sorts of interesting, that being not much. Look, it's not that I don't like the concept of cyberpunk worlds, in fact I really do, but I've heard so many times in the last 3 years that I'm just getting fucking sick of it, and I can't even begin to wonder what it must have been like to have a whole game jam dedicated to it. But then again, this game came out before Edgerunners and even Cyberpunk 2077 itself. And when comparing both games by a day one standard, which is what you should always do no matter how many promises corporations make, Valhalla just slightly edges out by being fully playable without glitches.
Johnny, did you see what happened? Something feels off here.
You don't say.
In all seriousness, however, I like this implementation of Glitch City, purely because it's based on the developer's experience of living in a poor country, riddled with inequality, and you can definitely feel it in the game. Funnily enough, Glitch City is implied to be an actual location in our world, given that at one point, the characters travel to Panama out of all places, and even Europe and Zanzibar are mentioned in the story. So by that logic, we can establish that Glitch City is located firmly in Flint, Michigan. In this god-blessed location, second only to the streets of Rio, you play as a human, also referred to as Jill Stingray, and like for many other people, the answers of all her problems lie inside of an empty glass, gracefully hitting someone else in the head. Jill, full name Julianne Nately, is a stingray with a face employed at the quote, Hall A of the BTC certified bar, coded VA-11, but as the game ever so kindly puts it, that's a mouthful, and not to mention a terrible branding name, so we just call it Valhalla. The title of the game. Let's get on with it. For starters, Valhalla is a visual novel and Alright, listen, truthfully, I was also turned off from this game when I heard about being a visual novel, probably because I was traumatized from having to read so much Genshin Impact lore and cutscenes for this channel. But even if you're not used to playing visual novels and the only one you've ever heard about is DDLC,
just play the game.
Valhalla is a non-linear visual novel entailing 20 days of the life of Jill as a bartender. Well, 23 if you decide to play the optional prologue, and as seen just now, is separated in chapters, all of them with titles in Latin. Primera meaning first, Amarga meaning bitter, and Dulce meaning sweet. Chapter 1 starts in Jill's apartment, but we don't care about that, it's 3 AM and you're late for work, so get up and get going, lady! Well,
Here we are.
shut up, joke's not original. Here it is. This is what you'll see throughout most of your time playing the game. Now, I'm not going to review this day by day, but I should at least mention the first day in the playthrough. It serves more as a tutorial, if anything, of what you're going to see in these 20 days as a bartender. If you ever worked in bartending, which I haven't, but it's easy to picture, you should know how the gist of your job goes. The basic day, well, night loop involves talking to customers, of which there aren't many, but as we'll see later on, that's for the better, making their drinks, and that's that. The drink mixing as complex as you might expect it to be, and as much as this dude wanted you to be a pro at, leave me alone, John, I know how to make a drink, couldn't be any easier. After getting someone's order, you just open the Calicom here, the fancy name for the dictionary, and even fancier name for a computer with all the ingredients and instructions separated by types, flavors, and name. Throw everything you needed together in the shaker, and if necessary, age, mix, blend, or add ice to it. Aging rocks are as easy as sticking these bits here, and blending requires you to mix for 5 seconds before stopping, something which in itself can add completely different drinks. Some drinks also have optional karmatrine, or karmatrine, which is this world's equivalent of alcohol, and contrary to my belief when first playing the game, there is no limit to how much optional alcohol you can add, which leads to some really funny moments and memes in the community.
Objection!
The others are supposedly sweetness, bitterness, spiciness, and sourness, which are reflected in the drinks separated by flavors, always requiring one of these depending on their taste. For example, sweet drinks such as a Sugar Rush all have Adelaide in them. And finally, you can make a drink big by doubling every ingredient in the recipe, something which is sometimes explicitly asked for and other times implicitly. If this were your first day in bartending and this were real life, honestly I can understand why someone may have a panic attack over this, especially if your first order happens to be something like a Piano Man, thanks John. But newsflash, bitch. This is a game, and you just so happen to have infinite time to get someone's order, get up from your chair, do 30 minutes of exercise, have lunch, take a shit, take a shower, take your pants off, and then come back to find out that, oh shit, you don't know how to make a Sugar Rush, you absolute moron. Yo, bartender, can I have me a sip of that Coca-Cola? Sorry sir, we don't serve Coke here. What? How? This is a bar. Yeah, it is, but we don't have any bottled drinks as of now. What? How does a bar not have soda? I can make you one though. You can what? I can make you a Coca-Cola. You can't make me a Coca-Cola. No one outside of Coca-Cola knows the recipe to the Coca-Cola. I just made you one. Here. That's not Coke, it's close enough. One might take a look at this and call it simplistic or somehow even unnecessary, but my opinion could be any more different. What set this game apart for me specifically is the fact that you at least do something with your hands other than just flip the pages of a glorified book. Visual novels are obviously meant for reading, but taking different elements of gameplay and adding to it just makes the experience that much more interesting, and allows for complete strangers to visual novels, such as yours truly, to get attached to it more. And as it turns out, drink mixing is the only way to progress or change the story, as Valhalla quite cleverly lacks any dialogue choices, with the exception of special circumstances. It all comes down to whether you make the right drinks or not, something which I find extremely interesting and only amplifies the interactive elements of itself. My only quote-unquote complaint is that there's no way to add more challenge to this by making it timed, which could honestly make for a pretty fun challenge to pretend that for some reason this hellhole is on rush hour and you gotta make everyone's drinks on time. Oh, and don't worry, if you end up getting someone's drink wrong, you don't fail or anything. Instead, it's reflected in your final earnings at the end of the night and in the alteration of the story elements. For example, with Dorothy here, she has a specific favorite drink which just so happens to be important to unlock more story bits related to her, And since this is a visual novel, branching / differing paths is a must, and this is Valhalla's way of doing it.
Did you know that? Now you know.
Whoa, what the fuck? At the end of each day, Jill gets rewarded with her salary, and honestly, being paid daily is probably why she has such shit money management skills. And after this, we're introduced to another bit of gameplay, if you can even call it that being Jill's apartment from earlier. Hi, my name is Masahiro Sakurai, and today, I'm here at I Don't Understando to review our newest addition to the super duper Smashing Brothers Ultimatum, Jill's Stingray. Jill's moveset in her room involves accessing her phone and the many applications that come along with it, such as Danger You, the Augmented Eye, and Idol's blog, listen to the game's music, and so on. Outside of that, she can go shopping and decorate her room with the many objects available, including a certain face which we'll talk about eventually. You also find out about other things which our main character here needs to take care of. You see, Jill is a very busy person, not only at work, but also with her subscriptions she needs to take care of and make sure are paid on time, and also rent that needs to be renewed. And come on, it wouldn't be fun if I said what happens when you miss the deadlines, you know? Finally, the game gives hints of what items you should buy in order to not make Jill distracted. Jill being distracted basically means that you can't skip the text as you would normally, because if you do, you're going to miss someone's order and she's going to be thinking about, is the order a rabbit or the strap of her bra? But if she's happy with herself and concentrates at work, she'll remember everyone's orders and even suggest different drinks for additional or separate story bits. It's not much, again, it's simplistic at best, but it makes for a cozy and oddly realistic feeling of being at home, given this game's nature. Valhalla is one of the most cozy, down-to-earth, and honestly realistic games out there. Now, obviously, I don't say that because of the graphics, because like, look at this guy's face, but because of how the characters and dialogues are written. Jill herself isn't a very complicated protagonist at all. Like, she's just a 20-something-year-old, has a job, pays rent, lives paycheck to paycheck, drinks a lot, is probably depressed, and is just trying to get by in life, like a lot of us are. And I mean, hell, the game itself isn't very complicated, neither is the story, and she's a perfect representation of that simplicity. The regulars at the bar, while at times having amplified personalities or dialogue for the sake of comedy, feel like actual real people, which is something easy to miss when creating any sort of game with dialogue boxes. The lack of voice acting makes your brain fill in the blanks and imagine a certain voice and tonality for every character and their situations, and prevents this game from having dubbing akin to Sonic Adventure.
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
These characters by themselves and the way they are explored contribute immensely to the subtle world building of the game by providing details about Glitch City themselves, which therefore helps you formulate a mental image of the place you've never seen, much like eavesdropping on someone's conversation. Adding to that are the themes explored by Valhalla. I'm gonna say it outright, the game is very raunchy, but not to the same extent as like Simran Kagura is. But in a very, again, realistic manner. After all, bar-goers are all adults, I think, and sex is a very much common topic of conversation or jokes in many friend circles. Hell, one of the characters can even notice how sexually frustrated Jill is, and she has even an $800 subscription to VR6 and a shirt that says slut on it. But in case you haven't figured it out yet, I wouldn't recommend this game to children. That should be obvious. So go away, Norma. The staff entails a grand total of 2 other people. Jill, aka Jillian, not to be mistaken with your own character Jill, and who is not your brother as much as he may look like it, and your boss Dana Zane, of whom Jill is so fond of she has made into her phone wallpaper and has a poster of in her room. Honestly, I'm not sure this person is right in the head. Blink twice if you need help.
Wow.
These 2 are the only ones who appear in every day of the game, given that they are the very regulars. I especially love Dana and wish she were my boss so I could work a max of 30 minutes per day and be paid $1,000 daily. Oh, right, Venezuela. According to the ever-reliable Wikipedia, the characters of Valhalla are often referred to as the average non-heroes. Now, I don't know who said that because the website doesn't bother telling me, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they are extremely likable, like in the part where Dana goes,
Michael, don't leave me here. Michael, Michael.
As stated by the developers, Again, some of the most prominent characters have a specific theme in their design, one of them for example being how pursuing your dreams can harm the ones you love. Not that these are explicitly mentioned in the story, but they are very much present ideas in their personalities and development. One of these themes explored by Valhalla is quite simply the many manifestations of regret. Feeling remorseful for your past actions is something which us humans are all too acquainted with, and nowhere in this game is this better exemplified than in... Hey, sorry for the interruption, but I'm gonna have to issue a spoiler warning for the better part of this game's story here. Feel free to skip to this timestamp to avoid it. Still here? Alright. And nowhere in this game is this better exemplified than in Jill's character arc. On December 21st, in-game, obviously, Jill comes face to face with a certain kid, who she doesn't recognize immediately until she explicitly says her name. This girl is Gabby, Lenore's younger sister. So it turns out that before coming to Valhalla, Jill had a girlfriend called Lenore, but then they had a pretty nasty fight and both went their separate ways, with Jill never actually saying sorry to Lenore for what had happened. Now, years later, Gabby confronts Jill for the first time to give her heartbreaking news. Lenore had died of nanomachine rejection, a disease where one's body reacts violently to the nanomachines injected in them and is almost always fatal, as was the case here. Up until this point, the game had been fairly regular with its narrative. It was light-hearted, mixed drinking fun with Mrs. Bartender and her friends. And even after Gabby enters the room and before Jill recognizes her, the writing seems to fixate more on how she seems to have found her place in life as she talks to Jill while the kid just stands there, looking kind of pissed. But after the 21st, the entire plot and presentation of Valhalla is flipped on its head as Jill struggles mentally with this revelation. At this moment in time, every single bit of regret she's ever had about the relationship, coupled with the death of her ex-girlfriend, all crashed down in such an unfortunate twist of events. All told by the girl who she considered to be a younger sister during the relationship, and is now blaming her for everything. You can't help but feel kind of empathic for her. At times, Gabby can come off as rude or delusional in blaming everything on Jill, even saying things like it had to be too much of a coincidence that Lenore got sick right after Jill left, but even then, you gotta remember she's probably just as mentally distraught as she is, and maybe felt like confronting Jill would be the right thing to do. The remaining 10 days are all spent with Jill trying to cope with this in any way she can, trying to forget about it at work, talking to her friends, or as is common for so many around the world, to drown her sorrows in a bottle of alcohol. It's all too real and dark, but also, it means that Jill has to learn to reconcile with her past, forgive herself, and just move on. This section is, in my opinion, where Valhalla's story truly shines. Alright, now back to the people at the bar. Every single one of these characters, with the possible exception here and there, all feel so down to earth, especially the ones who fit better in the context and art style of Glitch City, such as Sei and Stella with their tech suits and modifications. They aren't going to become pop culture icons because of their personalities anytime soon like the Team Fortress 2 mercenaries, but they're still memorable enough to the point where you won't ever forget some of them even after finishing the game. And I'm glad they decided to make these characters regulars instead of creating an extensive cast of nobodies who you get to serve quickly and never get to enjoy properly. As much as it is not realistic to have only one person being attended in a bar, it helps to get attached to the characters more. Speaking of characters and getting attached to things, I cannot for the life of me forget to talk about the music and how great it is. Yeah, I know, great transitioning from my part. Realistically, you don't see visual novels being recognized more for their OST, but Valhalla flips that on its head by making you choose the songs that play during your shift at the beginning of every night. In the jukebox, Jill can, or rather has to, choose 12 songs, and each one of these is better than the other. There's not a single bad track in here. It's no wonder that many of the first results that appear on YouTube when looking up Valhalla are OST compilations or extended versions of the most popular tunes in the game. Some of these songs, such as the one that plays in Jill's room, gave me that odd feeling of nostalgia you get from time to time. It's kinda nice, really. You really cannot go wrong with the jukebox. Just inputting random ass songs will net you the same sort of satisfaction because they're also goddamn perfect, both thematically and in composition, something which only a handful of games are capable of achieving in my opinion. and yeah, I might have a problem. I mean, damn, for as unknown as I thought this game was, the full album on YouTube is currently at 2.6 million views. Not really what I had in mind, considering no one else I talked to has played or heard of this game. Like every self-defined visual novel does, Valhalla has its own spin on multiple endings. However, unlike most conventional VNs or games with visual novel elements to them, such as the hyperdimension of two new games, the endings don't directly affect one another and can all in fact be considered canon. The ending shots in Valhalla quite cleverly don't happen all in the same time frame, meaning that when one ending happens, it has a specific date and later on in the story, another one happens and doesn't break the continuity at all. Except for the bad and good endings, which are obviously direct opposites and cannot be triggered simultaneously. Really, most of these aren't even your endings, or in this case Joel's endings, but rather fitting conclusions for the appearances of some characters in the story. I'm not gonna spoil what each ending entails, but just so you know, you can get every single one in the same playthrough. Just gotta make sure to get every dialogue and interaction right, something you probably won't do, at least in your first playthrough of the game. Well, we just talked about the ending, so it would probably be fitting to finish a review here and now, if not for another thing worth bringing up, which is this game's sequel, or in this case, the lack thereof. Cyberpunk Bartender Interaction N1RV-NA, or as you should refer to it because you're not a moron, Nirvana, is the upcoming sequel to Valhalla, which started development in 2017 and was later announced on September 2018, which is like 5 years ago, what the hell? For Switch, PS4, and of course, PC. Oh god, make it stop! The official page for Nirvana explains the basic premise of the game. You're Sam, who I suppose is this lovely lass, a bartender, obviously, who works hard to care for her and her partner's 8-year-old son, said partner being a Yakuza called Leon. So unlike Valhalla, which focused solely on Jill as the main character, this entry will certainly bounce between these two and develop their relationship unlike what we've seen before. You know, because of that whole thing Jill has going. Go play the game yourself. It is explained that the game will not take place in Glitch City, but instead in a place with a much more, you know, city-like name called Saint Alicia, an artificial island in a touristic paradise around the world, probably located somewhere near North Sentinel Island. According to the YouTube trailer for Nirvana, the game will be a direct sequel, as Glitch City, quote, changed the world and led to the formation of new, unnatural cities. This false paradise I kept referring to. Now, I don't know what that means exactly, no one bothered telling me, but I know the game will keep the same PC-98 aesthetics seen in its predecessor, but seems to change up a bit and evolve in the likes of animation, presentation, and from what we can see, likely even gameplay, ditching the underground neon bar looks for something more classy in comparison. This specifically reminds me of those minimalistic hipster restaurants where the food is so absurdly small with the hint of some random McKinney pepper sauce and costs $40 a plate. And it's served on a slab of wood. And your menu is on a QR code. Unfortunately for us, however, it seems like the ones in hot water with the Japanese were not the characters of the game, but the developers themselves, who sadly announced in 2020 that for personal reasons, which you can read more of in their website, Nirvana was delayed indefinitely, or as Teen Cherry would put it,
it's done when it's done.
In the meantime, however, Sukeban looks to present more new projects, and given the previously earned reputation, we can safely expect the best from them. I really hope the development of Nirvana goes through smoothly. It would be such a shame for a sequel expanding on the world of Valhalla to go to the bin so unceremoniously. In the meantime, however, if you haven't already, you should check out Valhalla's Cyberpunk Bartender Interaction in your platform of choice, and get to mix drinks and change lives.
Oh, right. I forgot about the whole outro thing. Thank you for watching my videos, and I'll see you in the next time. Take care.